Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's parents not to come to my graduation after they said I wasn't their real grandson and picked my brother instead? You know when someone says something so out of pocket, so cold, that it changes how you look at them forever. Yeah, that's what happened to me right before Thanksgiving last year. I'm 18 now and getting ready to graduate. My little brother is 11. We were at my house, just a regular afternoon, chilling with my parents and my dad's parents. My grandparents. The same ones who I thought loved me just like they loved my brother until they showed me otherwise. So we're all sitting there and out of nowhere, my dad's parents bring up something none of us saw coming. They said they were starting a college fund for my little brother. It wasn't part of the convo. Nobody asked about it. They just randomly brought it up like they were proud. My mom was caught off guard, but she smiled and thanked them. Then she asked a pretty normal question. Why now and why bring it up? That's when everything got awkward fast. They said, we just want to make sure our grandson is taken care of, so he doesn't have to worry about college. That was it. No mention of me, no offer, no comparison. Just a straight-up declaration that they're doing this for their grandson. I sat there like, wait, aren't I your grandson too? I've been in this family my whole life. You've known me since I was a little kid. I call you grandma and grandpa. And now you're just excluding me? My mom clearly felt the tension too. She asked, did you ever start one for him? Meaning me. That's when they looked at her and said something that made my stomach drop. No, he's not our real grandson. I swear, the room went completely quiet after that. Like time stopped. I just remember feeling this heavy wave hit me. And it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about a college fund. It was about being told to my face that I wasn't family, that I didn't matter enough to be treated the same. They added something like, he'll get something else, and even had the nerve to accuse my mom of expecting too much. It was like they were offended that she even asked, like I should have just quietly accepted that I wasn't included. And look, let me give you some background here. My biological father was never really in my life. He was in and out of jail, and when I was 3 years old, he passed away. I never knew him. I only know about him from what my mom told me. And she was honest. She said he wasn't a good man, not someone I needed in my life. When I was 2, my mom started dating the man who eventually became my real dad. And I say real dad because he's the only one I've ever had. He adopted me when I was 5, gave me his last name, raised me, loved me, was there for me at every school event, every tough moment, every birthday. He is my dad, and I thought his parents, my grandparents, accepted that too. I thought they saw me as their grandson. I never once questioned it. Not until that moment when they made it crystal clear that they never saw me that way. What hurt even more was that this whole conversation happened right in front of me and my little brother. We both just sat there in silence. There was nothing I could say. I didn't want to cry in front of them. I didn't want to show them how much it crushed me, so I just stayed quiet. But everything changed after that. I couldn't look at them the same. I didn't even want to be in the same room with them anymore, because suddenly every memory felt fake. All the birthdays, all the times they smiled and called me their grandson, it all felt like a lie. And yeah, later they apologized, but only because my dad made them. He told them they needed to, and they did. But it was cold, forced. No emotion, no real effort to make it right. They didn't come to me on their own. They didn't say they were sorry because they realized how much they hurt me. They did it to save face, to keep things civil. And honestly, that made it worse. Because I realized something in that moment. I loved them more than they ever loved me. I thought we had something real. But clearly it was one-sided. Since then, I've kept my distance. I'm polite when they're around, but I don't go out of my way to talk to them. I don't try to be close, because I know now that no matter what I do, they'll never see me as truly part of their family. Then Christmas came, and they were over again. This time, my parents were talking about my senior pictures, about graduation coming up, and my dad's parents were sitting there all excited, talking about how proud they were, saying how they can't wait to see me graduate, how they're looking forward to watching their grandson walk across that stage. I just sat there like, what? What are you even talking about? A month ago, you told me I wasn't your real grandson, and now suddenly you're proud of me. You want to be there for my graduation? Why? What changed? Because from where I'm standing, nothing did. And in that moment, I decided to say what was really on my mind. I looked them right in the eyes and said, I don't want you at my graduation. And the moment those words left my mouth, the entire room went quiet, like dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. My dad froze. His parents stared at me like I'd slapped them. My mom sat still, biting her lip, clearly knowing this was going to happen sooner or later. They looked at me like I'd just disrespected the family, like I crossed a line. But I wasn't about to sit there and pretend everything was okay, because it wasn't. So I told them, I said, you told me I'm not your real grandson, so why would you care about watching me graduate? They tried to interrupt, but I kept going, you made it very clear that I'm not really part of your family, that I'm just here. So why come now and play proud grandparents? My dad's mom, she started crying. My dad's dad looked away, and my dad, man, he looked hurt, not mad, not angry, just sad. He quietly said, son, it's Christmas. And I looked at him and said, I know. That's why I've waited until now to say this. I didn't say anything on Thanksgiving. I didn't say anything when they apologized just because you told them to. I waited. But now that they're acting like nothing happened, I can't let it slide. My dad's mom tried to speak. She said something like, we didn't mean it that way. It was just a misunderstanding. But that made me more upset, so I said, no, you meant exactly what you said. You said I'm not your real grandson. And that's fine. I'm not asking you to lie. But if I'm not your real grandson, don't show up at my graduation pretending I am. That's when my dad stood up and left the room. I heard the back door open. He needed air, he needed space, because for the first time ever, his two worlds were colliding in a way he couldn't fix. I sat there, staring at his parents, while they sat in silence. My little brother had gone upstairs during the argument. He didn't need to hear this, he didn't deserve to. After a while, they got up, put their jackets on, and before leaving, my dad's dad looked at me and said, we made a mistake, but one day you'll understand that people say things they don't mean. And I told him, I do understand. That's why I'm not yelling. I just don't want to celebrate my achievements with people who see me as less. They left without saying anything else. My mom came over and hugged me, said she was proud of me for standing up for myself, but also that she hoped maybe one day I could forgive them, not for them, but for me. Later that night, my dad came to my room, sat down on my bed, and man, I could see he'd been crying, eyes red, voice low. He said, they were wrong, you know. You're my son, my real son. I chose you. I raised you. I love you more than anything. And I nodded, because I know that I've always known that. But it didn't make what his parents said hurt any less. He asked me if I really didn't want them at graduation. I said, yeah, I meant it. I didn't want fake support. I didn't want people clapping for me when deep down they didn't even see me as one of their own. He nodded, didn't argue, didn't push. He just said, okay, I'll talk to them. That was the last time we spoke about it for weeks. Weeks passed. We didn't talk about it. Not during dinner, not during drives, not even in passing Christmas. Ended weird. New Year's came and went. No calls from my dad's parents. No messages. No check-ins. And honestly, it was peaceful. No fake smiles. No pretending like we were family when clearly we weren't. I started focusing on school. Senior year was flying by college applications, essays, scholarships. My mom was on top of everything. She helped me prep for senior pictures, helped me order my cap and gown. She was doing her best to make this year about me, but I could feel the tension with my dad. He was quieter than usual, still supportive, still present, but you could tell he was torn. He loved me, no question about it, but he also loved his parents, and part of him wished I could just let it go. One night, I walked into the living room. He was watching an old home video. It was from the first time we went to the zoo together. I was maybe 6, riding on his shoulders, laughing, calling him Dad. And I stood there in silence, watching the screen, hearing myself call him Dad. Even back then, it hit me hard, how far we've come, how real our bond is, how none of this was ever fake. I sat beside him. Didn't say anything at first. Then I said, "I know this isn't easy for you." He nodded, didn't look away from the screen, just quietly said, "They should have never said what they said." And I replied, "I just don't want to share a big moment in my life with people who didn't even want to share their last name with me." He didn't argue. He just nodded again. A few days later, we had extended family over cousins, uncles, everyone asking about my graduation, who's coming, what our plans are, and right there in front of everyone. My dad said, "We're keeping it small, just close family, people who've been there every step of the way." I looked at him, and in that moment I knew he had my back, no matter what. But of course, word got back to his parents. They called him, accused him of choosing me over them, said things like, "You've changed, that boy has changed you." And my dad, he told them, "That boy is my son. The only one who's changed is you, and you've shown him exactly who you are." That was the last time he spoke to them for a while. They didn't take it well, apparently told other family members we were being dramatic, that it was just a misunderstanding, that I was too sensitive, but I didn't care. I wasn't backing down, because for the first time in my life I realized I didn't need their approval. I never did. I had my mom, I had my dad, I had my brother, I had the people who mattered. The closer graduation came, the clearer everything became. And the more I understood that DNA doesn't make someone. Family, love does, choice does, loyalty does. Graduation season started creeping in. You could feel it in the hallways. Seniors were counting days, planning outfits, making lists of who to invite, where to take pictures, what to do after the ceremony. But for me, it wasn't excitement. It was this quiet storm building up inside. I didn't want to pretend. I didn't want to stand there in a cap and gown, smiling for pictures with people who once said I wasn't their real grandson. Every time someone asked, "Your grandparents coming?" I just shrugged, because honestly, what was I supposed to say? Nah, they don't think I count. One night, while I was going through my phone, looking at photos from over the years, I found one that hit me hard. It was from my 10th birthday. I was holding a gift they gave me, smiling so wide, and in the caption it said, "Our amazing grandson turning 10. So what changed? Was I their grandson then? Or was that just for show? Just because I was a kid who didn't know better? Just because they didn't want to deal with the truth out loud? I remembered that birthday. They brought a gift. They smiled. They hugged me. But I realized now none of it felt real anymore. So I told my mom, I don't want any fake love at graduation. If they didn't see me as their grandson all these years, they don't deserve to stand beside me now. She looked at me, put her hand on mine and said, "Then they won't." But not everyone agreed. Some cousins said I was being cold, said I should be grateful anyone wants to show up, even if they messed up. But I wasn't buying it, because graduation wasn't just a celebration, it was closure. It was everything I'd worked for, everything my parents had sacrificed for, everything we'd been through, the late nights, the school stress, the broken pieces we picked up as a family. I didn't want that moment tainted by people who couldn't even acknowledge me as their own, then out of nowhere. My dad's parents showed up one weekend. They didn't call, didn't warn us. They just knocked on the door. My mom opened it. She looked shocked, but she let them in. They said they came to make peace. They said they didn't mean it the way it sounded, that they were just old-fashioned, that it was a slip of the tongue. But it wasn't. It was their truth slipping out. And now they were trying to tape it back together with excuses. They turned to me, said they were sorry, that they've always loved me, that they were proud of me, that they hoped to come to my graduation, take pictures, celebrate. But I just stared at them and said, if I wasn't your real grandson, then I'm not your real graduate now. They sat in silence. My words hung heavy in the room, and I meant every single one. They tried again, tried to say my dad wanted us all together, tried to guilt me, tried to make me feel like I was doing something wrong. But I looked at them and said, he raised me. He earned the title of dad. You didn't earn anything, you just showed up for the good parts, and even then you never saw me as yours. After that, they left. Quietly, no yelling, no fighting, just silence. And honestly, that silence said more than any apology ever could. Graduation came faster than I expected. All that build-up, all that pressure, and suddenly, it was here. My mom helped me get ready, straightened out my gown, tightened my cap, fixed the tassel like 3 times. She smiled the whole time, but I could tell her heart was heavy. She wanted it to be perfect. She wanted peace. But she knew where I stood. My dad came into the room. He looked proud but quiet. I could feel the weight on his shoulders. He still wanted his parents there, still hoped I'd change my mind, but he didn't say it out loud. He just looked at me, put his hand on my shoulder and said, no matter who's in the crowd, I'll always be right behind you. That hit me. I walked across that stage. My name got called. Applause echoed, but I wasn't scanning the crowd for their faces. I didn't care if they came anyway. I wasn't walking for them. I was walking for my mom, who raised me alone until she met him, who worked double shifts, skipped meals, cried in silence so I wouldn't see. I was walking for my dad, who didn't have to be my father, but showed up every single day, who never used the word step once in his life, who called me son from the moment I could remember. And I was walking for myself, for the little boy who wondered if he ever truly belonged, for the teenager who felt invisible in a family photo, for the young man who finally learned blood doesn't make you family, loyalty does. After the ceremony, we took pictures, just me, mom, dad, my brother, no fakes, no pretending. We laughed, we cried, we hugged, and for the first time in months I felt light. Later that night, my dad came to my room. He sat down, no anger in his eyes, just sadness. He said, you know, they were wrong for what they said, but they're old, stuck in their ways. I don't agree with them, I never have, but they're still my parents, and this has been hard for me too. I nodded, because I got it. He was stuck between the people who raised him and the son he chose. He said, I just want peace. I don't want my graduation gift to be a broken family. I looked at him and I said, you're not the one who broke it. They did. I'm just refusing to pretend like nothing happened. He got quiet, then hugged me tight and said, no matter what, you'll always be my son. My real son. Don't ever question that again. And I didn't. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their presence. I didn't need the fake smiles, because I had the ones who mattered. Graduation was behind me. The applause had faded. The celebrations were over, but something had changed. Something inside me had finally clicked. I didn't need their acceptance anymore. I didn't need them to define who I was. The weeks that followed were quiet. My dad's parents didn't reach out. I didn't call them either. I just focused on the future, focused on what mattered. And for the first time in a long time, that didn't include them. It wasn't like I was bitter or angry. I had forgiven them in my own way, but forgiveness didn't mean I had to let them back in, not without real change. My dad tried a couple of times, said they wanted to make amends, that they wanted to see me, but I didn't respond right away. I didn't owe them a second chance, not unless they showed they had learned something, not unless they understood what they'd done, and most importantly, not unless they were willing to be real with me. I still saw my dad's side of the family, my cousins, aunts, uncles, but I kept my distance from them, kept things polite but distant. One day I got a call from my dad's parents. It was a Sunday. They asked if we could talk, so I agreed. I agreed because I was curious. What was left to say? When they arrived, I could tell they were nervous. It had been a few months since that last conversation. Since everything had gone down, they sat down, and my grandmother looked at me with a different kind of expression. Not just guilt, not just regret, but something more, something real. She said, "We know we messed up. We know we hurt you, and we can't take that back. But we want to try. We want to be a part of your life if you'll let us." My grandfather added, "We weren't raised to understand all this. Adoption, blended families. We didn't get it. But we see now, and we're sorry for making you feel like you weren't ours." It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. I listened, I thought about it. And for the first time, I realized something. I didn't have to let them in all the way. I didn't have to bring them back to my inner circle. But I didn't have to hold on to the anger either. So I told them, "I can't just forget, but I'm willing to try again. On my terms." They agreed. And it wasn't an easy fix. It wasn't some magical moment. But it was progress, real progress. And that's what mattered. The journey I went through taught me something huge. Family doesn't come from blood alone. It comes from love. It comes from respect. And it comes from understanding. You don't have to be stuck in the past. You don't have to keep relationships that don't serve you. But you also don't have to let resentment poison you either. At the end of the day, it's your life. And you get to decide who's in it. But just remember, sometimes the hardest people to forgive are the ones who should have loved you the most. I may not have had the perfect grandparents, but I had the perfect parents, and that's all that mattered. And as I looked back, I realized something else. I didn't need anyone's validation. To know I was worth something, I had already earned that all on my own. So, that's my story, guys. It's not always easy to confront the truth, but sometimes it's the only way to heal. I had to stand up for myself. And while it wasn't easy, it was necessary. If you've ever felt like you don't belong, or if you've had to make tough decisions about family, I hope you take something from this. Remember, your worth is not defined by anyone else. Not by blood, not by what people say, but by how you choose to live your life. If you liked this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think, or share your own experience. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.